The Lions go to the Rams really, really needing a win. And despite their offense doing just about everything it can, the defense allows 41 points, and the Rams win at home 41-34. And the Lions are really staring down the barrel of a truly disappointing and disastrous season. Y'all's thoughts on this game?
Go ahead, JP.
Well, yeah, you're speaking to it. I don't have them in, and their only way in realistically is to win out. But they can win out and still not make the postseason. If Chicago is able to win against Green Bay this week and Chicago is able to go and then win in San Francisco, if they're able to do those two things, Detroit can win out and not make it. And Detroit has two winnable games in front of them with the Steelers coming into town, and then they play 9 in Week 17, and then they go to Chicago Week 18. I think we're staring down the barrel of a win and in between Chicago and Detroit. Winner gets the 7 seed, and if Detroit wins, they would get the 7 seed. If Chicago wins, they'll win the division. So that I think you're looking at Sunday Night Football, cold weather, Jared Goff having to go to Chicago, which is why, like you said, this game became so critical, and it was so necessary to win this game. And sadly, with the way the NFC has gone this year, this is where your season is gotten to, where you have to beat the number 1 seed and number 1 team on the totem pole and the pyramid and power rankings and in the NFC, and they've got the MVP, and they're playing at home, and they're hot as can be. When you don't win enough games, this is where it gets to. When you let 9 come into your building and beat you on your turf, this is where it gets you. It's a sad reality, I'd have to imagine, for Lions fans. But I want to give them credit. They played really, really well offensively, and I don't think they were going to stop the Rams that well defensively in this game.
No.
I know we talked about it as this was going to be a shootout. This was going to be guns blazing. It was the highest total of the week, and a really high total for an NFL game, and they lost the shootout. And that it's again losing games in the way that they win games, which is winning games by scoring a ton of points. They again clearly don't have the horses defensively to hold up in a game like this. So it sucks for Detroit Lions fans, but they've got to win out, and they need Chicago to go lose either this week or in San Francisco to have a chance, even in Week 18, because it's looking really grim for them.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about the cold weather Goff is going to have to play in, and other factors, just the general inconsistencies that have led them to being 8-6, also lead you to feel horrible about the odds of them winning out. So it does suck. I guess I don't expect to make the playoffs, so I'm just looking for the offseason. Some defensive retooling is definitely going to need to be done because it has to be better than this. I know it's the Rams, but when the offense plays like this, the defense has to come through in some capacity. And I know there's some injuries, but even still, this just can't happen.
Agreed.
I don't really have too much. Go ahead. I was going to say, I don't really have too much on the Rams. I mean, just another kind of keep doing what you're doing. The Davante Adams hamstring stuff is something to monitor. I've not seen anything of that post-game or since the game in terms of how he's doing. But the offense is just flying high, doing what it does. It did it yet again. The weapons are insane, and the defense does enough, I guess.
They may not even need him. Davante didn't have a catch in this game, and they scored 41 points. It is going to hurt to not have that kind of weapon, but I wouldn't rush him back on these last 3 weeks. That you don't need to, especially not this Thursday against Seattle.
Yeah,
with the short week, definitely no reason to play him on Thursday.
Peter Schrager said in an interview today he's unlikely to play Thursday. So there you go.
Yeah. I wouldn't even play him the following week. I consider not playing him until the final week of the season because at Week 17 you play in Atlanta. And if I'm not mistaken, that game is on is on Monday Night Football. Yeah, that game's on Monday Night Football. So maybe you could play him on that Monday, but I would even potentially save him until Week 18 and play him in that game and get him tuned up for the postseason. Sure. You don't need to risk him coming back. I don't think the 1 seed is going to matter as much for them as we've talked about with Green Bay and New England and Denver. They, with their offensive firepower, can go win really anywhere. And cold weather is a question, but last year in the snow game against the Eagles, they have the ball with a chance to go win the game inside Philly's 20, and they don't end up getting it done.
Yeah.
So they can play in the cold weather. They're not worried about that. So I don't think the 1 seed matters as much for them. The health will be a big one. Having Davante Adams there is going to help them a ton. The way Detroit defended him was hilarious in this game because before he got hurt, Los Angeles, I think, had 2 different red zone drives with him, and they were putting like 4 or 5 guys on him because he has, I think it's either 11 or 10 red zone touchdowns this year.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So he's been like their key weapon. And so the Lions were just saying, no, you're not throwing a touchdown to Davante in the red zone. Throw it to anybody else. And yet still there was a ball Stafford was able to get to him, and he wasn't able to reel it in. Also, like, how much did L.A. pay the refs? And how much did Colby Parkinson pay the refs? Because that was not a touchdown. Did y'all see that?
I did not see that. I need to go watch it then.
I'm going to pull it up.
We need to go look it up because a deep touchdown, it's like a 26-yard touchdown. Parkinson catches it. He very clearly is touched, and he's falling to the ground and is down at the 1. Obvious as day. Clear as day.
Oh, yeah, that is not a touchdown.
And they called it a touchdown on the field, reviewed it, and said the call was upheld.
Insane.
And I do not know how.
That's ridiculous. Did they ever show a pylon cam view?
They showed the pylon cam view. I don't know if they showed it while they were doing the review. I can't remember because I was watching 3 other games. But it was egregious.
That's a terrible call.
You can't make that call. Force them to convert at the 1-yard line. So maybe that's a curious story going forward. But
the one
Davante
thing,
injury. Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing I'll say is it almost looks like he's bobbling it when he's on the ground, and so does he just not have control until he's in the end zone? Maybe that's what they ruled, is that it never hit the ground, but he also never had control until he was in the end zone. Therefore, it would have been a touchdown.
It's another reason I wish, like Josh Pate has been saying, that refs would be forced to do post-game interviews because it was either Kevin Burkhardt or Tom Brady explained that what you just said there, Sanders, or maybe he fumbled the ball a little bit and then re-caught it, and then he was down in the end zone. But we don't know that because they never said it, and they never will say it, and we'll never know. And so it is one of those things where I wish we would get a better explanation. I wish we get the post-game press conference or do what the ACC did this year and let us in on the conversation.
Yeah.
And let us hear what they're talking about because that cleared up a ton in a ton of different ACC games this year. That you could find out exactly what they were talking about in their process. So
imagine if we had that last year for the Miami Virginia Tech game.
Yeah.
That would have been crazy.
That's probably part of the reason they did it. It looked like he was short. Yeah, I saw a good tweet about the Davante Adams, red zone touchdowns. It was like, man, so unlucky that Kyron Williams stole a red zone touchdown away or a touchdown away from Davante Adams. Because, it's typically reverse of dang, the backup running back comes in and takes the touchdown or steals the touchdown. But no, Davante Adams is just that good of a red zone weapon that it feels like the running back is stealing a touchdown from him in fantasy. I thought that was good. But yeah, it's a fair point that they may not need him, but he's like a luxury. He's a number 2 receiver or like a 1B receiver that you'd love to have. And you make a great point too, JP, that is like where they're at record-wise, standings-wise, who they're playing, how good they are. They probably can afford to rest him for a couple weeks and make sure that he's fully healthy for what matters, and that's the playoffs.
Yeah, you just want to be sure that in resting him, you don't accidentally take your foot off the neck or less aggressive. Take your foot off the gas pedal of either of the other NFC West teams because let's go. Yeah, you're tied with the Seahawks for 11-3, and the 49ers are one game behind you.
Sure.
So you definitely don't want to end up in a situation where you're resting guys to be careful, but then you go and you lose to the Seahawks, and then you lose the division, right? I mean, if the Seahawks win out, you've lost the division, I think. And then you go to the Rams and you play Monday Night Football. Not the Rams, excuse me, the Falcons, and that's just weird because the Falcons will occasionally score 0 against the Panthers or whatever game that was, and then they'll also occasionally just have a really good game and compete against the Bills, and they beat the Bills, right? So it's
they did beat the Bills. I agree. I think just since it's a hammy and since it's less so they feel like they're like taking the foot off the gas.
I agree.
As, like, they're just it's a hamstring, so you just want to be careful in that regard. Because also, I'll say right now, the Falcons are high variance. If you can't beat the Falcons without Davante Adams, you don't necessarily deserve to beat the Falcons.
I was also just kind of addressing JP saying earlier that they don't really care about the 1 seed. I feel like that kind of mindset is not the healthiest mindset to be like. I mean, that's how I ended up failing classes in college is because I didn't care about the A. I aimed for the C.
Yeah,
and when you aim for the C, you miss.
Sure. You make a good point. I think they will want the 1 seed. I just, I think they'll prioritize health of a guy that has not always been the healthiest too.
Yeah,
he's someone that gets banged up.
They can lose on Thursday and still get the 1 seed. If Seattle loses to San Francisco week 18.
Yeah.
And Chicago defeats San Francisco week 17.
Sure.
Those things happen. Los Angeles gets the 1 seed even with losing to Seattle this week. So they don't have to rush him, and they can win their final 2 games and still have a path, a very viable path. That being said, like you at the beginning of that, you said these teams are kind of lively in this NFC West. So they 100% are. San Francisco is 3 games from the 1 seed themselves. They beat Indianapolis, they beat Chicago, and they beat Seattle. As long as Seattle beats Los Angeles on Thursday, San Francisco is the number 1 overall seed, regardless of what happens to any other team. So all 3 teams are really live for the 1 seed. That's how good these teams have been. San Francisco, like Jack said earlier, not on the show, but in the chat, has been a benefit of their poor schedule, but even with the amount of injuries they've had, I think you have to give them a ton of credit to even be here.
Yeah, those 2 facts kind of cancel out.
They're going to play 3 again. Like I said earlier, with you think a team might be fraudulent, they're going to get their tests. San Francisco has to play Indianapolis on Monday night and then host Chicago and Seattle. So like they're going to play their playoff games before they play their playoff games. We'll know whether or not these teams are actually there or frauds by the postseason. I think we'll have a really good picture of all of these teams, and with the totem pole and the pyramid's guidance, I think we'll be able to go on a nice little undefeated run of the postseason.
I hope so.